Presbyterian Funeral Division, and you looked up a funeral home listed the funeral home that you're trying to look for, it should usually let you know there if they've actually filed for it and how long, if it's active or inactive, just to give an example. You also would probably want to find out the agent or counselors if they need a life insurance in that state. Is there an option to get just a limited license? Do you need a pre-need license or some other requirement? As an example, in Wisconsin, not only do you need a life insurance license, but you also have to go through a one-time 24-hour CE class that's in person. And then, of course, have to pay a fee and register for the agent and burial agreements. And also you need a life insurance license. So again, that's just an example of each state has its own set of rules. So just be sure to check on any local or state information before looking at funeral homes. Have a game plan. You know, is your game plan just to find a funeral home that says, sure, you can represent me, and you're turning in business to them? Or are you looking more of other approaches to pre-need sales? Meaning, are you just going to work on the outside, bringing business in, the pre-need business to the funeral home? Or are you just going to be bringing in non-associated contracts to them, meaning that there's not a guarantee to the general price list or using a cost estimate only? Or are you going to have access to inside sales for pre-need? That would be the family service counselor meeting with the families after a service after they had a service at the funeral home. That makes a big difference on what your game plan is going to be when you actually have an opportunity to speak to the owner. Obviously, know your product and its benefits to the funeral home, the customer, the funeral director, and yourself. Again, most of us on this call, we all know as far as the Village product is concerned. That's a big plus when you start talking about the benefits not only to the funeral home owner, but the funeral director and the customer, and of course yourself. Bill, can everyone hear me okay?
I can hear you, Ralph. That's your background.
Okay, perfect. And then also too, you know, be prepared to have a business card, have some company information together for you, either the page or a brochure, just giving a little bit of background about yourself and what you've done in the community, kind of giving that 30-second commercial. That's very important because obviously you're about ready to ask them some important information to review with them if they allow you to. So you want to make sure you're professional and you can provide the information in case if they're there to talk to or if they're not there. You know, that brochure should have your background in the marketing. For example, if you have experience in the grassroots events, doing with churches or senior centers, or if it's going to be an aftercare program at the funeral home, if you're active in funeral home seminars or some type of venue for the seminar. Also, it's very important to get the requests and understand the GPLs from the different funeral homes in your area. It's a great time to kind of know what the competition is, to see, you know, what funeral home offers what and see what their prices are, to see really how competitive you are when you do go out and see families in the same area that you may be approached, or to look at another funeral home in the same area. If you get an opportunity, get to know the funeral directors and the staff. It's really the livelihood of a funeral home. You know, they want you to actually look and breathe and smell like you work at the funeral home if you're not an employee. So it's really important to get familiar with the staff, be friendly with the funeral directors, ask if there's any type of service. Again, this is if you have an opportunity to sit down with the funeral home. But again, just getting to know the staff and the funeral directors will take you as much further than what you could if you didn't. And also ask if they use any type of software for contracts, or do they just take the paperwork and put them in a yellow folder for files in the file cabinets there at the funeral home. So again, these are just some things to consider either before going into a funeral home, or just being prepared that if you do sit down with them, just make sure you have all these things thought through and well versed. So, because again, the conversation could go quite different with every different funeral home that you see. So as an example of what you may want to say when you go into a funeral home, you've already done your homework and you know you're going to go visit. First of all, you could say hello. I would say, hello, my name is Paul. I'm with Premier, and I'm looking for the person in charge of your pre-need or pre-arrangement funeral department. Is he or she available? And let's assume that they are. I'd say, great, thank you. If you have the opportunity to meet the decision maker, most importantly is just make sure that you find out that that is the person in charge, not just the pre-need counselor, because obviously you're trying to get to the person who actually handles the pre-need or the pre-arrangement funeral department there. But once you do, you just basically let them know that you would like to review some recent updates on growth rates available on most pre-need or pre-arranged funeral contracts that you may not be aware of. And to have a better understanding of your business needs, is it okay to ask you a few questions? And if they say yes, say, great. Do you have a room or a table that we can use? And go ahead and just sit down and again, have your business card and information together. And then the next step would then be going to the funeral home information sheet. And I'm sure once I'm done with all of this, Bill, I can send this out to you if you'd like to share this with everyone on the call, this particular sheet.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then the next sheet that I'm going to show is the funeral home information sheet. Can you all see this currently now? Let's see here. Can you see that on your screen, everybody? The funeral home information sheet?
Yes.
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 Perfect. Thank you. All right. I know some of you have seen this sheet. It's been a couple different versions, but this would be very important. Once you're sitting with the funeral home owner, it's not just, hey, I sell insurance outside of the funeral home. They really want to know what sets you apart different than the average insurance agent down the street that may ask them the same thing multiple times throughout the year. So these are some of the questions that I like to ask. It may not be in this specific order, but again, it's just really more of having a conversation and either later on checking the boxes off, filling out the information. But again, it just kind of gives you an outline of what you should have. Obviously, the date that you're there, referred. So who referred you? Meaning that if you have an information sheet like this that you've gone through and sat with a funeral home and you've filled out this completely and you still need some help, like what the next step could be, this would be important for someone like myself, for you to send that to myself. So I can then take a look at it and help you, or if you have someone else in your area that's working with you from Premier, then just be sure to have this together so we kind of have an idea of the funeral home's outline of how they like to do business and things like that. So obviously having the funeral home name and address and phone number, who the decision maker is, if you didn't know by this time, how interested is the location and staff on an active pre-need program. You may be surprised that there may be funeral homes out there that you run into. You think, why would they not want to have free business? Believe it or not, there's funeral homes that don't feel that way. They feel that walk-in business, they've been there for a very long time, that they don't want to have anything more to have to put on their plate throughout the day. So pre-need may not be important to them, but it'd be very important to find out what their interest level would be. And if they say that they don't have any, you may ask them questions such as, did you have a bad experience in the past, or did the person leave that used to take care of your pre-need program? Questions like that. Okay. That would be very important to know. And of course, the contact, their names, their phone numbers, their emails, the number of funeral directors. Again, the contact information can be from business cards you pick up after you're leaving from the day, by asking for those business cards once they've identified who these people are. You also would want to find out, is the firm licensed to accept pre-need sales contracts? Like I mentioned, depending on the state, you just want to validate to make sure that everything is in compliance. So that way, if you have the ability to write a pre-need contract that's guaranteed with a general price list, or if you're going to just do a non-associated policy until they agree, or you find another funeral home in the area that would like to take the business. Number of calls per year. Number of calls per year means the number of actual funerals that they have, or how many families that they serve in a year's period of time. So obviously, if you're looking at funeral homes that are doing 150, 200, 250 plus and up, those are some really good numbers that you could work with to know that there's a lot of things that you could probably market in that area. They've probably been around for a while and pretty consistent. So that may be a good funeral home potential for you to take advantage of the opportunities of that brick and mortar location in the community that they serve. Pre-need sales volume per year. You'd like to find out how much business are they currently doing, what the average contract amount is, what percentage of their business is funerals versus cremation, And out of those funerals and cremation, what percentage of those have some type of service attached to it? And this is very important. The next part is what percentage of their business is SP, which is single pay, and what percentage is multi-pay or MP. The reason I bring that up is because if you have a funeral director and they're the ones that run the pre-need program there, to them, they may only write single premium business because they don't want to do any more paperwork than they have to. They just simply they just know if a family comes in, they really don't want to do the paperwork. They just complete it and they just tell them, you need to write me a check for $10,000. Well, if that is the case and that's the one who's running the pre-need department, there's probably going to be a little bit different conversation I'm going to have with them for them to understand how the Voyage program works and how multi-pay should be something that they should truly consider, because they are always upon the idea that the family should never have to pay more than the original funeral amount, because they've never had a product like the Voyage product, which obviously, as you all know, all the money they pay into it actually turns into death benefit at the end of the term. So that makes a big difference where that conversation may go. Do they currently have an active pre-need sales program? If not, like I'd mentioned, what causes them not to have an active program in place, an active pre-need program in place, like time and budget, management, the right marketing partner, the product that they may have had. You'd be really surprised on how many funeral homes do not have a clue on what their current growth rate may be. And of course, with the Voyage product, it doesn't matter, right? Because they actually get the benefit if you have a funeral home that you're actually signing up and you're able to use a general price list and they agree to use a guaranteed funeral contract. That is huge to the funeral home, because again, if it's a $10,000 policy now, in 10 years from now, it grows to be $20,000. Most of these other funeral insurance companies out there, they typically are going to pay just a growth rate to the funeral home. So for example, if it's a $10,000 policy and in 10 years from now, they gave them, say, a 1.5% growth rate, that means that that person died 10 years from now. That means that they would get a check for $11,500 with most companies out there. But with the Voyage product, the way it works is that everything they pay into it turns into death benefit. So the advantage to the funeral home is that if they no longer are charging $10,000 and now they're charging $13,000 or $14,000, then they have the ability to then take that amount and submit that into the insurance company. And that's the amount that they actually will get paid to help cover what we call shortfalls in our industry, meaning that what they had guaranteed 10 years ago has obviously gone up in price due to steel costs, due to delivery fees, due to inflation in general. So it's just very important to make them understand through your presentation, and when you start talking about the Voyage plan, how that really sticks out, to let them know that you're really there to help them with shortfalls with their policies. Because if they had a choice of getting a check, for example, for $13,500 that they may receive because they have the Voyage plan, versus company B that's only paying them a 1.5% growth rate as an example, and they get a check for $11,500 and they have a choice of taking one of those checks, which check do you think they're probably going to take? They're probably going to take the higher of the two, right? So that's one of the things that's very important to be sure that when you get to the Voyage plan, that's what I would definitely consider explaining in detail with the funeral director, especially so they actually understand that the funeral home or the pre-need contract, the person that's going to have the pre-need contract, that they're actually not going to be hurt. As a matter of fact, in many cases, they're going to get money back on whatever has not been spent with the funeral home, which is quite different than most plans out there. So as I'm going through this, you also want to find out what carrier or carriers they're currently using, and what is it that they like about that product. What do you dislike about the product? Maybe it's the customer service. Maybe it's the reporting. Just again, finding anything that can help you when you're again trying to win them over, is to find out some of these things and ask them if they had a wish list, what would they like to see? And then under here, I put a couple of bullets together on a scale of 1 to 5, is to have them really share with you what is most important to their firms. And like I mentioned, for a lot of funeral homes, it could be reporting, because they have to file with the state every quarter or every 6 months on the number of contracts, the ease of claims, the growth on contracts, Again, like we were just mentioning, how the Voyage really helps eliminate the shortfalls. And again, filling their files and letting them understand with your marketing assistants that you can help them stuff their files with pre-need contracts and learn how to eliminate shortfalls when the pre-need turns into at-need. And that's so vital, folks, for everyone here on the call today, that really will hit home with them, knowing that there'll be more money available to them with a Voyage product compared to other products out there when it turns into at-need. Also, the ease of paperwork and getting policies issued. Of course, we all know we can either do paper application or MindRoller. Products that owners and funeral directors and pre-need counselors are comfortable with when discussing payment options, like I mentioned. Again, you need to let the funeral director and the funeral directors feel very comfortable knowing that it's okay to talk about multi-pay because of the fact that it's actually better for the funeral home, it's better for the family, and it's better overall for everyone. Are commissions important to them? Well, obviously, if you're looking for a funeral home, commissions may not be important, because if you're actually doing the marketing for them and bringing the business, then that probably shouldn't be even a conversation that you have to have. But what if you did have a funeral home that they said, no, we're happy, but we'd love to use your product because we love it, but we're going to do our own marketing. Well, that's actually a good thing. Then maybe commissions may be a conversation to have, but usually it's not. Let them know, as far as recruiting talent with ongoing training and support, that if it's not yourself, to let them know that you will recruit talent in the area and help train and support them. That's also what we're here at Premier Pre-Need Marketing to also do, is to help any way we can with support, with how to talk to families, how seminars are conducted. I know most on the call obviously know how to do grassroots events, but again, we're all here to help everyone. Like I mentioned, electronic applications to process the clients online 24/7, and also turnkey marketing and community outreach programs that could be as low as $0 cost that someone can manage, and report all the activity and updates. That way they can focus on the management of the firms. And of course, gaining market share and future revenue. This is very important because obviously if you're going into an area and you have several funeral homes that you could go to, you may want to pick the one you really would like to work with first, because if they do back down, you can always let them know that you're in the area of the week, and you have a couple funeral homes that you are in the area to visit with, and they may even ask you, who are they? So again, if you're able to do your homework, going on the websites, it could also help you, letting them know that if they know that you are potentially going to talk to another funeral home right down the street from them, they may want to just say, sure, we'll do business with you because we don't want you to take market share away from us. Also, on a scale of 1 to 5, online presence, how important is that to them? Automated aftercare that works. For those that are on this call that do not know what the term aftercare means, aftercare is actually helping the families that were previously served as well as their next of kin. Again, what better way to get additional sales from families who have already been to a funeral home, have gone to a service, in some instances have already paid for the funeral, or are a family member that have been impacted, and they're thinking, maybe this is time to put a plan in place. But most of the time, it's just a thought. It's not really reality unless someone actually reaches back out to them. So again, we have an aftercare program that does work and keeps families loyal. It's not just for them, but it's also for decades, which is very important to keep them away from the competition. On a scale of 1 to 5, the digital marketing options to increase funeral home and at-need business, and also what would it take to earn your business and get started. So I just really wanted to put these bullet points together just to kind of keep everyone here on the call, if you're looking for funeral homes, that these are some of the things that you may want to ask them. And then later on, you can put on a scale of 1 to 5 what they felt like. And this will really help move forward in the right direction with the funeral homes. And they also will know that what you're talking about, because you're bringing up terms that usually someone in the funeral industry knows, but maybe not so much in the insurance industry. And of course, that's what we're here to do, to hopefully help you try to take everything that you're doing in insurance and incorporate that hybrid approach to pre-need. And so hopefully this will help you all. Well, other than that, is there any other questions that people have in relation to the questions that I have placed on here? I'd be more than happy to take some questions.
Don't be shy.
Paul, what would be helpful is some of the terminology, like I sometimes even get mixed up, but when you're in there, knowing, it's sounding like you know the business, would you say, um, would you say a casket? Would you say like they're definitely different lingo that Justin sometimes says the honoree. Um,
Yeah.
and how important is the actual lingo, and what are some of the biggest mistakes that they can instantly tell you're a greenie if you say it?
That's a good question. And that's really where, that's why, you should really take a look and go on to the funeral home's website to see, to see kind of the history and kind of see the people that are there. If there's a if there is a GPL that's available, that may also help some of the lingo that you're just mentioning, Ralph. So for example, if they use, they use vault, if they use the term vault, or like you said, casket, or they're using urn and keepsakes and all these different terms, the more that you can understand what packages are within a GPL, and that's something, again, I know that Michael Hartman or I could certainly help with related to some of these terms and going over the basic things that you would incorporate to understand. But like you said, most of the time they're pretty universal, but we do try to keep things pretty simple, meaning that if anyone on this call has done final expense in the past, is if you can really keep that same concept and then just break it down, explaining what the services are, and then you come up with an estimated cost, and then the casket, and then the miscellaneous, and then like you mentioned, like a cemetery space, the vault, the opening, closing, the marker, or the headstone. So a lot of times you can find out what those terms are, Ralph, based on the general price list. So even if you don't know it going into it, when you leave, getting a general price list and understanding it would certainly help.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, hi. This is Michelle Brown. I have a question because I'm in Nevada, and Nevada's laws are so strict down here. You mentioned something about checking a website to see if you need additional certification.
Yeah, well, in every state, in some states, it's pretty universal. In many states, you could just need a life insurance license and then get, signed up with Great Western, and you're good to go. There's no other laws. Like for example, Illinois. Illinois is a state where you, as long as you have a life insurance license, and as far as a funeral home, there's no other special bonding or anything they need except for just, having their license at the funeral home state. So most important is really dissecting that in two steps. One would be in Nevada, because I don't know what the requirements are in Nevada, but you could always call the Department of Insurance in Nevada.
Okay.
And just
Okay.
and just ask them, by the way, as a funeral home owner, and if I want to be able to show a general price list, is there any specific, permit or license do I need to have for my establishment?
Yeah, but I don't need it for a funeral, just
No.
owner. I'm
Yeah.
just basically talking about as being an agent selling the pre-need.
Yep. So, and then on the flip side of it is then you could then go also to the same site and then ask them, in order to sell prearranged funerals in your state, what are the requirements? And they should be able to tell you, I know you need a life license, you have to get fingerprinted, or they may tell you that we have a limited lines available rather than a life insurance license. Some states have temporary licenses you can get for 6 months before taking the test. So really it really varies by state.
So should we assume that once we got our writer's number and we're on, if I look on the DOI for Nevada, I see that Great Western's on there. So should I assume that I didn't need anything else? If I did, they would have contacted me?
Yeah, well, are you selling non-associated business, or are you working with a funeral home?
Well, I just signed up to work with a funeral home.
Okay. So what I would probably recommend is, I mean, to answer your question with Great Western Insurance Company, you as an agent, as long as you have the requirement, for example, a life license in the state of Nevada, they can certainly give you an agent number, because obviously that would be based on non-associated business until you had a funeral home secured. And then once that happens, I probably would recommend then probably reaching out to licensing or give it to your manager to ask the question for them to ask, now that I'm getting a funeral home contracted, is there anything else in my state that I need to do to be in compliance?
Okay. Sounds good. Got you.
Okay. Thank you for the
Thank
question.
you.
Thank you.
Well, I like to ask someone a scenario. Someone reached out on here, Oliver. I wanted to him, if you get a chance to tell your story about what did you do? What was your strategy of calling funeral homes and the type of success that you had? What did you do? Can you share that, what you did in Cleveland?
Yeah, sure. Actually, I have a question for you though, Paul, first, if I may, Bill. With that funeral home information sheet, is that a Great Western requirement in order to solidify the contract? Or is that just something for our own internal use so we know kind of who the funeral home is as a client?
Yeah, it is not a insurance company requirement. It is just something to keep you on pace to know that if you're needing any support from a funeral home, and for example, if you needed someone like myself to help guide you through or anyone, it just gives us a snapshot knowing that we don't live in that area. We're not familiar with the area. So the more information that we can have when that's sent in, especially if you have a funeral home that you signed up, I would recommend anytime you do the funeral home authorization form and the VPay form, I would just automatically do the funeral home information sheet just automatically, and send that to your upline or however Ralph or Bill has you all, or India, has everyone sending it in. But it certainly would not hurt to have that information sheet together so we all can save that and not have to ask you every time, now who are we talking to again and how many people are there and what are we talking about? So that would be the reason.
Got it. Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, I mean, to answer your question and request, Bill, to share with the group, it was pretty simple for me, which I think this is something that anyone is capable of doing. I was obviously put in contact with Tabitha, who's my regional, with Great Western, and Michael Hartman connected us. And then after talking to her, I just asked her specifically which funeral homes in the area are contracted with Great Western. She sent me an email. There was about 6 funeral homes. And then all I did was just Google the top 15 funeral homes in the Cleveland area. And I just went to work. I called all of them. And I really kind of combined both your script, Bill, and Paul, what you had actually coached me on. So I would say the first piece of advice is leverage your resources, because these guys are very experienced. They've closed tons of business and they're literally accessible to all of you. So if you don't utilize your resources, there's really nothing that you could, have a testimony and a connection to, right? And so I basically just approached each call with, hey, I'm a funeral planner in the area. I'm starting the contract pre-need for new clients, but I don't have a funeral home to place these contracts with. And then I followed it up with a simple question. Are you currently contracted with Great Western? Now, of course, I knew the answer to that, but I asked the question anyways, and they said no. And then I asked if they were familiar with the products, and they said no. And I said, well, I'm actually going to be in the area with my regional. I'd love to stop by and meet you, put some information in your hands to see if this might be a good fit for your funeral home. And I got an open invitation. And so we had about 9 funeral homes that we met with that morning or that day. And I talked to Charles Sloan, who is the owner of Sloan and Company. And it just turns out that he sold pre-need for the first couple of years that he was in the industry, made multiple 6 figures, transitioned to a funeral director, opened up his own funeral home. And at this point, he wasn't really doing any pre-need. He had no pre-need department. He let go of his license. He does about 900 plus calls a year. And so we went in and we literally sold him on the power of the product. The product sold itself, right? The fact that, it's going to obviously dominate in the industry, the almost doubling, or in some cases more than doubling the face amount to have that guaranteed money. So when the pre-need converts to at-need, his only request was, that as I'm contracting, I place him with his funeral home, which was totally acceptable, right? And so, Tabitha and I did the math, and, with this marketing that we're, going to be executing on a consistent basis, we're thinking that if we're able to capture a third of his production, he does about $5 million plus a year, right, in funeral service business. If we captured a third at an average face amount of $5,500, that's going to generate 1.6 million in face amount production for me in one account.
Yep.
Right? So imagine what happens when the marketing starts to take place. And so the cool thing from a marketing standpoint is, talking to Bill today, we're going to set up the digital registry from this point on, and we're going to enroll all of his walk-ins and all of his new clients and all of his scheduled funeral that are coming into his building. We're going to get them all registered, and we're going to have trifolds. We're going to have one-pagers, and we're basically going to do a digital blast, a drip campaign every 30 days, now letting everyone know that he now offers pre-need, right? And so it's going to really help us solidify future business.
Now, I have a question, Oliver. Your background, right? This is not your primary thing, right? Can you explain everybody what your background is?
Yes, my background is in financial services, so I'm the money guy, right? So I teach people how to save and make money. We have a full service platform. We've got estate planning division. I opened up another business to offer assisted living Medicare, right, which is an exclusive product. And of course, because India knows Derek and Derek and I are in partnership, we got a chance to meet you, Bill, and the rest is history.
So out of all these agents, right, that are on here, you guys, just came on board not too long ago from another platform to kind of like cross-sell or add this to your portfolio as a specialty product, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Because if there's anyone on the call that's sold or currently selling life insurance, that there's a percentage of your market, book of business or whatnot, really not a book of business, but just people that are classified as uninsurable, right? Maybe it's pre-existing conditions. Maybe they're out of the window of affording life insurance. And so, historically, we've never had a product to place for those type of clients. And so quick testimony, I had a client referred to me, married couple, the husband's 33 years old, HIV positive. I went through many different carriers and it was considered too of a high risk case. Fast forward, contracted with you guys, called the couple up, spoke to the wife, educated her about pre-need. We had him approved within 24 to 48 hours. So she's forever grateful that she has something in place if, God forbid, the inevitable takes place prematurely.
That's awesome.
And Bill, let me say this.
Go ahead.
I'm a quick study. So when I see Bill with 40 funeral homes, I see Oliver rock and roll with 1,000 calls. I had to get used to the call part, Bill, and stop saying doors from real estate. But I did learn that in Atlanta. So I'll be ready for Vegas next week. But so what I did is I talked to Michael Hartman today, and he's coming in for the Atlanta Braves game. So he's given us 3 days in Maryland, DC, Virginia area, basically Maryland right now. So any agents that need, Michael Hartman, I'm going to give you the dates. Just call me, text me, and then we'll start lining those dates up as he comes in town the last week of September. So that Oliver motivated me with the funeral home with Tabitha. So I had to call Michael Hartman.
So y'all just laying in funeral homes now because Hartman to be there. And that's what I do. I go out and fill with Hartman all the time, guys. And that's how I landed so many funeral homes. And we got some funeral directors probably on the line too. And they're in your back office like a regular agent too, because you could get them on the servicing side so they can accept the policy, but you also can get them a contract too to do Great Western. So you have both sides. And that's why I wanted you guys to check out, this call tonight, because Oliver's just been in here for about 30 days since he had his writing number, and he got a funeral home that does almost 1,000 calls. Okay. So that's huge. What about if he does 2 or 3? Or what about if he hires other agents that he can work in that funeral home for him? He overrides them. So you got to look at that it's possible, because this was never possible before. You can only sell this inside the funeral home. So now you can assure pretty much anyone from 0 to 100, you know, HIV, dialysis, everything now. Now, I wanted to ask you guys, some of you guys on here, who on here has been making like $1,000 a day? A lot of you guys have been making, I'm seeing it. Just who? Just came on, been on here for like 10 days and consecutively making a lot of money. And I know you guys are big in the IUL space. We have some people in the Medicare space. What are you guys doing? What is your strategy? What are you doing that's you're making a lot of money? And I know you're going to be assigning them over to funeral homes. Anybody want to speak on that? Because there's a lot of new people on here. They like, hold up, I never heard of pre-needs. I never heard of a federally regulated product. What's going on here? So anybody want to talk?
Now, even though Carrie's sick today, do I have permission to put you on the spot a little bit, Carrie? I know you're not feeling well. All right, maybe she's under the weather. I know she's on, but she's under the weather. How about Dakota? We'll put Dakota on the spot.
Oh yeah, Dakota. Carrie said you could speak for me.
I know exactly. Well, I'm gonna let Dakota go first.
What you want me to say? Carrie definitely got me beat. So.
But you didn't have a bad month last month, did you?
No, it was really good. My first month doing the pre-needs is actually unexpected.
How'd you do?
I made 6,500 the first month. First 30 days. Yeah.
Great. Fantastic. Wonderful.
No, right? Just starting. Well, you was only here for like a week and a half, really. So
look at Carrie. So Carrie can't talk, but I'm gonna read Carrie's text. I think she said 11K in 10 days.
Yeah.
So, and I know Carrie's going at it. I know even though she's sick today, I bet she's writing something up today.
I mean, we got a lot of people on here. Come on, guys. I know you guys are on here. Who did what? There's so many of y'all just hiding, being quiet. Come on, guys.
I know
they're hiding. I mean, they don't say it's like a secret. Like I don't want people to know. They might exactly. Come on, guys. It's not a secret. What are you guys doing? It's so many people. I don't want to call them out. Come on now. I ain't gonna talk about Derek because he already cracked. Derek, like first month, like 80,000, literally first month, 80K. See, this is the thing, right? You come in and you're an IMO and you catch this thing early, you could crack 100K a month at this thing. I mean, you can.
And imagine when the funeral homes are coming now, because Martha Hartman's coming. I mean, I can't let Oliver have all the funeral homes in the Midwest, so I got to do a little damage in the Maryland DMV area. So just imagine when the Midwest comes, the California, the Atlanta, the DMV funeral homes. I mean,
Georgia. I was just talking to a funeral director right before this call, and they got 2 funerals.
Look, Memphis and Nashville.
Oh, yeah. I was just talking.
So what's the chance? Hold on. What's the chance of the young ladies we met at the Atlanta convention to be the same friends of Carrie in those markets? Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, we got those funeral directors too. That's right. We did the 2:00 call. She was a funeral director with like 12 agents, and then I did another one just before this call, and then me and Hartman did one earlier. See. Awesome. So that's a bunch of funeral directors all day today, guys. They want in too.
And I just found out one of the apostles that's on the call, she just drips a little information out. She didn't tell me she used to work at 4 funeral homes. So that's 4 funeral homes she's about to bring to the table as well.
And I have those documents too, guys, that Paul is sharing. I'm going to email that to everyone. All right. Those documents and you guys have them.
And you know what, Bill, I got to give a special shout out to Harry Jones and Monica Colbert because, I mean, fearless. I mean, out there
Yes.
setting meetings up and
Yeah.
calling us, 2-3 times a week with 2, 3, 4 different funeral homes and agencies. So, I mean, it's a numbers game. You're going to hit. You go to now. Oliver hit the first time. I mean, but I think he called still 15 locations. So are we going to say you're going to hit the $1,000 call funeral home your first 2? Maybe not. But out of 10 calls, you're going to hit something nice. So I got to give a special shout out to Harry and Monica Colbert, and also what we're doing in the DMV. I'm personally going to go out for an afternoon, either once or twice a week, as I get my mom settled, and go out with people to the funeral home. So, I'll go out and then we'll set them up once a month or twice a month when Hartman comes in town to actually close them for us.
Yep. And you guys can do that too. And I want to give a shout out to a bunch of other agents that are going out to see funeral homes. Sarita, Joe Islar. Who else we got up here hitting some funeral homes? Gina, Carrie. Let me see who else. Alfreda Bradford. She's on here. Wow. Harry. Just talked about that. Who else? Chris Trimble. I like everyone,
Marino, I get Marino McKinney, even though he's studying for his test, he's talking to the pastor in a funeral home. So as that comes on, he'll have a client as he passes his test. I got to give Marino a shout out. I'm going to call Marino the Iron Man because he's hanging in here, getting his test, but he's working at the same time. So as he passes, he has a funeral home on board. Shout out to Marino McKinney.
Hey, Bill, looks like
Tammy too.
Bill, looks like there's a few people that have some questions.
Sure, go ahead. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, it looks like one of the questions from Linda was asking everyone, do funeral homes typically work with multiple pre-need companies? And the answer is, it depends. So they can be, this depends on the funeral director, the pre-need counselor, what the arrangement is. So yeah, that's one of the reasons you want to find out what pre-need company or companies they work with. And like I mentioned, as far as how much business they write per year, to help you get prepared to know that basically every product that they're using versus the Voyage product, hands down, you should come out a winner. So it just lets you, so again, yes, they can work with more than one company, but if you're bringing business to them, hopefully the agreement is that knowing that you're bringing business to them, that they'll, that will be the insurance company that they will most likely use if you're spending dollars on marketing. They may have something different potentially what they may use on the inside, but again, those are important questions to ask, knowing how to handle that and how potentially how you may be able to get that business like was just mentioned with the 900 call firm, knowing that they're already doing $5 million a year. Some of that could be just walk-in business that they very easily could have just said that they, let us get contracted, and that's an easy win for Oliver. And at the same time, maybe they're doing something with trust, and now you're converting it to pre-need, and they're going to give it all to you. So it makes a big difference asking questions like that. So again, thank you. That was a great question.
And there is no pre-need in New York. New York does not allow pre-need sales by any insurance company.
Great. So let's skip New York.
Mhm.
Someone wanted to know a little bit about New York, but you can't really work there.
Got to give another shout out to Ursula.
Shout out to Ursula.
I mean, Ursula did very well. I think her first week or two, I'm guessing, I don't know, I think she did like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. And I mean, I know she has more apps coming in, so shout out to you. Teresa was working on hers, and I'm working with her tonight. And I'm just excited. All the new people. Susan, who brought the apostle to the table, I know she's waiting for a writing number, clearing stuff up, but shout out to you, still working while you're waiting on your writing number. So excited.
Everybody needs to move out. And shout out to Douglas Romano too, because I know you're working with a funeral home too in Central PA, and that's been working out really well for you, right? Because you're working with a funeral director, right?
Shout out to EJ. I can't forget EJ. I see you putting in some work, EJ. So
yep,
I'm excited to see what you're going to do with your pre-need book of business as well. I know we don't want to go over any more questions, comments. Well, we have Paul Carlson on the line, ladies and gentlemen, because we don't want to hold you too late. It's approaching 9:00. I know the U.S. Open's on. I know Kansas City Chiefs are on. I know people have things to do with the family. So between those three things, we don't want to hold them. You know, we got football, tennis, and the family. So
Yeah.
anybody have any questions or comments before we end? I guess no questions or comments. So Paul, can you give us some final words for tonight? We've got a minute or two left and we'll close out the meeting.
Well, I'd just like to thank everyone for giving me the opportunity to be on the call. And I can just say, just keep moving forward. Again, the industry to me is just like how Final Expense was going back 20 years now. This is a wave that I feel that honestly, within the next 12 to 24 months for those that get in now, it's just going to be an incredible ride to know that you have brick and mortar locations to actually be able to market from and actually know that you're talking about insurance, but just in a different way, and use that emotional part of it as your sale, use it as an advantage to help families and hopefully use it for the good and not the bad. So use your wisdom wisely and make sure you can protect as many families as you can. If you do, income.
Well, I got one quick question because I know we got 2 minutes left. Is this unprecedented? I mean, have you ever seen this happen before in all your years of doing pre-need? Have you ever seen this happen outside the funeral home, what we're doing?
Not at the capacity and not seeing the growth that I've seen so far. It's just it's been an explosion of just amazing numbers that I'm seeing, each and every month. So I just got to, again, give credit to everyone again on this call, to all the managers and the IMOs and everyone else that's on the call. Just keep doing what you're doing. And again, I years ago, we looked at doing things like this. You all put all the pieces together. So Bill and Ralph and everyone on the call, thank you for making it happen. Mike Hartman, give him a shout out because he's a big piece of this as well. And I know he's not on the call. He couldn't be on the call today, but it's been a pleasure to know him for over 25 years as well. And the relationship that I've met with India and Derek and Bill and Ralph and some of the others. So I look forward to meeting many more in the future.
We have a question too, Paul. Ms. Moon has a question.
Hey, I appreciate you letting us, be a part of this meeting today. I wasn't really sure exactly what it was going to cover, but I'm thankful I have some people from my team that are on here. We're like completely new to pre-need concept. And so what would be the next steps like after you initiate the contracting part? Is there a separate like training or just give us like what would be the next step so that we can get more acclimated and, well-versed.
If they filled out the training links, I'll talk to Ralph who filled it out. And then you text me their email addresses, or Ralph, you can send me their email. If they filled it out, I'll send you the training portal and you can start training at your own pace while you're waiting for about 3 weeks to get your writing number and start that. And also go after your uninsurable clients. I can send you the forms that are there. Start writing it. I'll be training every Mondays at 10 o'clock, but right now you can watch our training portals and all the videos to getting started. So the next step is to watch the getting started videos and let's move forward. And I'm glad you're on here too, because you guys don't know her face. She was on let's say she was on the episode, as one of the contenders on a reality show. So that's how big it's getting because look who's coming.
No, don't go there. Listen, I literally, I appreciate that, but I literally am strictly more or less a Medicare agent, advisor. I do a lot of grassroots marketing and I'm already out in the community. So it just seems like it goes hand in hand. And on top of that, I'm growing my team and I have people in other states that are like, we want to find other levels to, different ways to make money in between AEP and also just as a resource. So I just feel like it's a great opportunity. I think, I appreciate Alyssa and just, the time you took today. And I got all my contracting done like in 1 day. So I don't know about anybody else, but I just think it's important to just get the ball rolling so we can execute.
Yeah, your contracting's up there. So other than the portal as well, just let us know. And we can then take a separate meeting, and we could do another one where really very, very technical because it's on the strength of this particular product. The Voyage product actually really is what is helping us get the funeral homes, because there are a lot of other companies doing pre-need, but they all stink compared to ours. As soon as they see the actual difference and they're building equity rather than liability, it just, the light bulb goes on and they want to work with you, and the clients do too. So just, we'll set up special training classes where we could do hand on hand. Bill has them on Mondays, but we could do it at any time. If you're saying, look, I got 5 people, we'll do it. We'll sit down and we'll get granular so that you could understand at a product level, what is getting them excited about doing business. Other than you're awesome, you can bring people to them. Why are they really jumping? And it's partially because you have a better mousetrap. And that's really, sometimes it's better to be lucky than smart, but you guys are both. So, and get on with us. We'll get granular. We'll show you spreadsheets on how it works and all that stuff. And everybody's invited. So we'll do that. Let's schedule another, and it won't, we could talk about how awesome things are, but sometimes we just roll up our sleeves and actually get out our pencils and see how is this so different? Okay.
Go ahead, Derek, close it out.
Sounds good. Yeah, guys, we're going to close out. We're about 3 minutes past the hour. Thanks for coming on. Thanks, Bill, Ralph, Oliver, Carrie, Paul Carlson. I'll let everyone know. Just contact me if you're in the DMV, when Michael Hartman's coming in town. I think he's coming in town. I think you're coming down too, Bill, for the Atlanta Braves game end of the month. So we're going to have a little fun, and then we're going to do a lot of business and catch up with Oliver over there in the Midwest with the funeral homes. So guys, have a fantastic evening. Go watch Kansas City beat Detroit. Watch Coco Golf win the semifinals and go to the finals of US Open. Have a great time with your family tonight. We'll see you next Thursday. We'll have a guest speaker. Thank you so much for being on the call. Bye now.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.